So last week, we're gonna get rolling. We're gonna cut through some of the really expensive fluff that I put into this today. So we're gonna cut through it a little bit because it's already we are rolling late. So we've been talking about dealing with our mission, our plan, our passion, getting into some kind of an active Christian living. This is the closest I get to sort of a self-help sermon series. As we discussed last week, we talked about, 2 weeks ago, we talked about James chapter 5 as sort of an introduction to what we were going to do with the sermon series, where James says, now listen, rich people, weep and wail, because the misery that's coming upon you, your wealth is rotted, and moths have eaten your clothes, your gold and silver are corroded, their corrosion will testify against you, and eat your flesh like fire. You have hoarded wealth in the last days. Now look, the wages you failed to pay the workers, who mowed your field are crying out against you. The cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord Almighty. You have lived on earth in luxury and self-indulgence. You fattened yourselves in the day of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered the innocent one who wasn't even opposing you. So with that beginning, we kind of asked ourselves 4 questions. How many workers in the field have you robbed of your testimony and knowledge of Jesus was really the first question. You know, how many people in your lives have you not shared the truth about something in your life, about this major part of your life? How many people have you kept it from in your life? I've always felt that Christianity is not a part of who we are. Christianity actually changes everything about who we are. I've always felt that it's not a thread in the fabric of our life. It's actually the dye that actually changes all of the fabric of our life. If Christianity in your life can be basically compartmentalized or put in a shelf or placed in a file, then you're not really a Christian. You're just somebody who's checking it out, somebody who's interested, somebody who's very much into religiosity. But the truth is, who you are as a Christian should change everything about the way you view the world. It should change your worldview. You should see the world completely different as a Christian. You should see the world with hope and enthusiasm and passion, and knowing that Christ is returning. You should see your life with an understanding of the eternal. So we get into these ideas of how we should be living our lives. How much biblical knowledge and truth do you have rotting in your mouth? How much is wasted in you? And I use myself as an example. I've spent 100,000 hours in Bible classes in my lifetime. I mean, it's probably coming up short there, but it's probably at least 100,000 hours. In my life, I've sat listening to people talk and teach about the Bible, right? I mean, I have learned so much stuff that I will never, ever use. For example, I don't know how you guys feel about whether you're post-millennial, premillennial, or mid-millennial, but that's really important to know. Because there will be a quiz when Jesus is talking in eternity. Whether or not you believe in premillennial, post-millennial. Oh, no, it's amillennial, not mid-millennial. Mid-trib. Duh. No, I have to call that professor.
You failed.
And apologize. So, how much biblical knowledge do you have rotting? The other questions were, how many times have you gathered and fattened? How many times have you spent, man, I got to go to a small group. Man, I got to go to a Bible study. Man, I got to do all this. I need more for me. Right? And we sit there and we do that all the time, and we don't have any intention of sharing it. And how much spiritual wealth has begun to stink. Right? Spiritual wealth stinks. It turns into hypocrisy, and it makes us look bad. And we have a lot of people who know the Bible in and out and who live awful, horrible lives. And they do so in a very public setting, it seems, all the time. You know, people who can sit there and say, oh, you know, I know everything there is to know about the Bible, but, you know, disregard the way that I'm living my life. And so we talked about, you know, basically the 4 steps to minimizing waste. Plan, intentionality, understanding what success is, and assessing. Last week we talked about missional living. It's very important that we understand missional living is missional has become very much a Christian word, missional living. The idea that we are living on mission. We are living with whatever that specific task is that we have been assigned in our life. That we are living on our passion. And in Christianity, we don't call it a mission. We call it a calling. Because it just sounds better. Right? And we like a calling, right? Like we've been summoned from the great beyond. Doesn't that sound better? It does. It sounds fantastic. Right? There's just that deep voice from beyond, you know, the universe calling out to us saying, you will begin a food pantry ministry. Right? And then we're like, oh, you know, like the beginning of my time. The inner impulse, right? There's this deep depth that we have that connects us with God, that makes us feel like what we're doing matters. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with viewing it as a calling. It's important that we understand the importance of how we understand our mission, that we're living missionally. And Marcus Buckingham, who's a strengths guru, like we love gurus. If you want to know what your strengths are, ask yourself, what do I lose time doing? Now, video games was a good example of what doesn't count. Okay? Like if you realize, oh my gosh, it's tomorrow. Everyone's done that. Especially the first day you bought Myst in 1993. You were unable to refocus on anything for at least 3 days. So, what do I lose time doing? Another important aspect of this that's very important that we understand is that because we're good at something doesn't mean it's a strength. You might be money at spreadsheets and hate them with a passion, not a strength. Being good at things does not mean it's something that's a personal strength. Strengths are things that we're kind of designed, geared, and born to do. You know, is sort of the Marcus Buckingham philosophy. So we understand as we're looking into this that it's something we lose time doing, things that we love to do. Some of us, you know, things that we're good at, they're tedious, they're frustrating, they exhaust us. Strengths are things that feed into us. We used a great example last week. I won't show the video again this week because it's too long, but Zam bikes. 2 guys. You know, back in the day they were kids. Now they're good, strong gentlemen. Love bikes and skateboarding, and now are changing a culture in Africa because they are creating transportation, ability to work, medical facilities, all this stuff because they love bikes. They've employed, I don't remember what the number was, it was 27? No, I can't remember how many were in the warehouse. But just listening to those stories of Africans who were unemployed, who were struggling, and now are sitting there saying, my gosh, you know, these guys came, they build bikes, they sell bikes. It's all they do. It has turned into this huge ministry that's changing lives. And it's because 2 goofballs like to skateboard and ride bikes. Everybody in this room has a skateboard or a bike in your life. Okay, that metaphorically. Yeah, and if you're over 30, put the skateboard away. Okay. So, trust me, it's not going to end well. You know, the idea that all of us have a skateboard or a bike in our life. We have something we love to do. We have a passion. We have a strength. We have a mission. We have something out in front of us that we can use. So going back to our layout for what we're talking about is having a plan. So when we start looking at planning, most of us don't really like planning. Planning is not fun. If someone says, hey, we're having a planning meeting, how many of us go, yes! Molly's lame. That's why we don't invite you to the planning meeting. Because we want to end them as fast as possible. Right, but they have this idea of planning. For a lot of us, planning really isn't our thing. But the truth is, we serve a God who has a plan, right? We serve a God who has a plan. God plans ahead. You know I had to use Hannibal, right? Right? We serve a God who has a strategy. Strategy is important. Strategizing, for all you young people in the room, Google it. We serve a God who has a strategy. We serve a God of order. The Bible says that we serve a God who really, you know, he'll work in the chaos, but he wants order. Right? Right, so there we go. Does everybody feel better now? Right? God loves it when a plan comes together. Okay, so when we start talking about planning ahead, we look at biblical examples of the way that God showed his affinity for planning. Okay, when he freed Israel from Egypt, he had plans for a homeland, for the journey. Right? He had plans for food. He had it all set up. Now, humanity struggled to understand the plan. When Moses came walking down the hillside, as we saw in that really, really good movie that was made recently, you know, the Escape from Egypt, the Exodus, or whatever it is. So as they're coming down, they run into the sea. God did not go, oh, that's where I left the sea. Right? He had a plan. He wanted to use it. He had it worked out. He also had a plan for their journey, how it was supposed to be. Now, as humanity, we can We have a lot of freedom in the midst of those things that are considered what's called God's sovereign plan. We have freedom in that. We can totally screw it up for ourselves, but ultimately God's goals will be accomplished for mankind. So in that, God had a plan for the journey. He had a direction He wanted them to go. He had a homeland He wanted to give them. He had food prepared for them along the way. He had all of that taken care of. We see in Isaiah 7-9, we see prophecies, and there's a whole lot more than that. I didn't parent that whole time and go through them all. We have examples of the prophesying of the Messiah that God had planned so long in advance. That plan had been put into action long before we understood the plan, before we could see the plan. God actually likes, in terms of sovereign plan, God has it in place. When we look at the New Testament, He had a plan for the atonement of humanity through the sin and anger of humanity. He brought Christ into our context, into our environment, and through our rage and anger and frustration and awfulness as humanity, we crucified Him, and God went, well, works out. The atonement I wanted to give you, you did what I needed you to do. I expected you to do that. So we had a plan in this and that, and that would be more incorporated into strategy. But there was a strategy to doing that, and He has an eternal plan for creation. We see that God wants to present this incredible reality of humanity, of eternity to humanity. That God wants to bring humanity into salvation so that we can exist in eternality with Him. It's an incredible truth that God, who has no reason, we are not lovable. Right? When you are divine and holy, the sinful nature of humanity does not make us attractive. Like He doesn't look at us and go, man, what a fun little project humanity is. The reality is we're awful because we are sin and sin laden. But He can look at us and embrace us through Christ because He made that choice. So Proverbs 15:22 says, without counsel, plans go awry, but in the multitude of counselors, they are established. So when we start talking about making a plan, so we have our strengths, and then we start figuring out how we're going to plan to use them. The first thing that we want to make sure that we do, right, is seek counsel. We need to involve counsel, people in our lives. Examples of Jesus doing that. John 15:1 says, I am the true vine, the Father is the vine dresser. Jesus sets the example of following the leadership of the council around Him in terms of God the Father. In Luke 22, it says, Father, if it's your will, take this cup, but nevertheless, I'll do what you want me to do. He is involving, He's being honest, right? He's like, I don't want to go through this, but I will. If that's your counsel, if that's your wisdom. We can go through 1,000 Old Testament examples, but I wanted to use Christ because it's the perfect example. So we need to involve counsel so that we bring people into our lives to allow us. So why do we involve counsel? Well, first of all plans benefit from a team approach. Now, a lot of us don't like to put our plans out there because someone might say something we don't like. Right? As a football coach, I'll be honest with you. I struggle sometimes with allowing other people to have any input in what I want to do. Because I'm a control freak on the football field. But all plans benefit from a team approach. The more minds, the more ideas, the more thoughts that you get into something, the more benefit. We're going to talk about how that benefits in just a minute. But the greater benefit we have in our lives. So when we're trying to plan out our mission and try to get our lives in order and try to actually do something for God, we benefit from counsel. Counsel brings guidance and various kinds of support. Now, counsel can bring financial support, spiritual support, social support, relational support, whatever. But counsel brings those things into our lives. When we try to do it on our own, we basically set ourselves up for this autonomous, where everything hinges on us. Now, some of us love that. Some of us love when it all hinges, but the reality is the best plans come from counsel. Counsel can bring correction. This is why most of us like to go about it on our own. Because we don't want someone to look us in the eye and go, I don't think you should be doing that. Mark Driscoll went through a lot of this very publicly recently. where he kind of lost sight of really what was the plan of the ministry that he was going through, and he's been honest about this. And they brought correction, and that correction wasn't easy to listen to, and ultimately ended in a resignation. But the reality is, counsel brings correction. Counsel can come into our lives and say, you know, I know that this was the plan, you're going over here, we don't want to stray that far, so let's make sure that we stay on target with what we're trying to do. But it's also important that we understand that counsel isn't flawed. Right? The book of Job shows that counsel can be flawed. Because what they tell him in Job?
Curse God.
That's right, curse God and die. Which, if your counsel says that to you, you might want to get some new counsel. Like, you know, I'm really struggling. Well, you should probably just curse God and die. Okay. Yeah. That was not on my options list. So, what counsel? Proverbs 13:20 says, "But he who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools will ultimately be destroyed." One of the things that I learned in my leadership class, and one of my leadership classes about 1.5 years ago, was this idea of awe, right? That we seek out 3 different kinds of people with counsel in our lives. Men and women of action, men and women of wisdom, and men and women of experience. When we seek counsel in our lives, the last thing that you want to do if you're trying to put together a ministry, if you're trying to get moving, is to bring inactive people in. Right? Oh, well, you may love, you know, Granny Smith, but, you know, she never did anything in her life, so why would you put her on your council? You want people, she's an apple. Because, you know, she did bring about theory of relativity. But anyway, the men and women of action, we want people who have done things. We want people who have experienced things. Men and women who move. Men and women who are a part of things that are getting done. We want people of wisdom, people who can bring discernment. We want someone who's been there, who's been through experience before. We want someone who can actually sit there and tell us from an experiential point of view why that's not going to work or why that is going to work. What we don't want is people who are like, sounds good, right? We need the guy who will run through the brick wall, but we also need the guy who's going to stand there and go, hey, maybe you shouldn't run through the brick wall. And go around it, right? And then we need the guy who's standing in the back who, you know, is going, hey, I ran through the brick wall. Let me tell you something, it really hurts. Even if you make it, right? We need those people in our lives to be honest with us. You know, you ever done something in your life and go, why has nobody ever done it this way? And then you do it and go, that's why no one's ever done it that way. Right? You ever been there? Where you just realize, oh yeah, there's a reason that was a bad idea. You know, I had a lot of those experiences with my dad growing up. Because my dad was one of those people who would let me make a complete fool of myself, then mock me to the point to where I was afraid to ever make a fool of myself again. The idea is that was my dad's learning tool, right? My dad was the guy who was like, you know, hey, what would happen, Dad, if I do this? Well, try it, see what happens. Right? No! Hey, you're never going to do that again, right? The old Jeff Foxworth, let him pull it on his head. You only do it once, right? So, when we look at counsel in our lives, when it comes to really making a ministry of our lives, when it comes to not producing waste, we have to surround ourselves with counsel that matters. Not just people that we you know, understand and like, which we're going to talk about in just a second. But we have to surround ourselves with people who actually have done things, who've moved, who've been down that road. We want someone who's put the work in. You know, I've used the gym example a number of times, right? Last thing you want when you go into the gym and sign up, you're like, hey, I'm going to get in shape. And the dude like me walks out and goes, hey, I'm your trainer. Right? And you're like, do you know how the equipment here works? I read the manual. Right? That's not what you want, right? You want someone who looks like Justin, right? So, that's it. Yeah. All right, so the next thing when it comes to your counsel, and this is the crux that we're going to talk about. We're going to skip the last 30 minutes. You have to identify the 3 main categories in your life. Okay? All of us have 3 categories of people in our lives. And you have to identify these 3 categories, okay? The first is protagonists. The second is the antagonists. And the third is the saboteurs. Okay? And we're going to go through each of them because all 3 of these are critical. Okay? The protagonists are the good people in your life. right? The good people in your life, the people that are desiring to be with you in the midst of things that'll help you come hell or high water, that love you to death, that want to just spend time with you, that have been your friends since Jesus, right? They're your cheering section, right? How many of us have a cheering section in our lives, right? Those people that, man, you might be flawed as all get out, but they don't see it. Right? We love those people. Right? We love these people. They're our go-to team. We love these people that are just, man, it doesn't matter what you do, right? They love you. These are your folks. These are your protagonists. Very important group of people. Okay? These are the people that you, man, you know, when you're feeling down, you go to your protagonists. And you sit there and go, I'm not feeling good. And they'll be like, that's weird because you're the greatest person I've ever met. And you're like, I know. Right? I love these people, right? You know, it's kind of like when like mom's in that wheelhouse with you, you know, or, you know, your mom's just in your corner. She's like, you're the greatest. Right? You need a whole team of that. You know, that's an important group of people, right? The protagonists. We love these people. Very important people to have in your council group. Protagonists. Because it's important that, you know, every day is a parade when you're in their life. Right? You know, like I said, I'm being extreme. Man, we love these people. It just doesn't matter what you do. They are going to love you, and you're the most important person in the world. You need some of those. Now we get to the antagonists. Okay? This group's not as fun. Okay? These are the people who push back constantly against you. The people who always seem to bring up the why you can't. Okay? These are the people who are always seem to be the voice of opposition in your life. The people who, no matter what you do, they are the naysaying Nellies, right? It just doesn't matter. I have a guy I sit on a football board with where it doesn't matter what you say. He will bring up the 947,000 reasons it won't work. You know, when you say, I'm not joking. I'll give you an example from 2 days ago. How about we have that where we collect at that point, you know, when we're giving out equipment, we'll collect the check, right? The check you got to write for your volunteer hours. His response, we can't do that. Why? Because a lot of people don't have checking accounts. Like what's a lot? Most. Well, I accept some don't, but I guess most do. But that's his thing, right? He's got to be the opposition. He can't live without being the opposition. He wakes up in the morning. How can I oppose the world? Right? We need these antagonists. You know, these antagonists are everywhere in our lives. You know, and it seems like every time we come up, you know, you come up with that really great idea, you're like, hey man, I got this great idea. It never worked. Why not? You're not the person. I've had so many people in my life tell me I'm not the person. You know, and they think they're doing me a favor. That's the weird thing about antagonists. They think they're on your side. Right? They're like, I'm just doing what's best for you, honey. You ain't the guy. You know? And you're just like, ow. Right? You got to identify who these antagonists are. And I'm going to say something that's going to disappoint most of you. You need these people. Life's not all about the protagonists. You need antagonists. You need opposition in your life. You need somebody to tell you you can't do it. So when you do, you need somebody in your life to constantly push back. You know, not that that's not fun, right? In that moment you're like, hey, it works. Who knew? Right? You need those people in your life. You need those antagonists to be a part of your council. Because they are going to raise issues that your protagonists will not. If you go, well, you know, part of the ministry I want to do is I want to lead a base jumping ministry, right? And your protagonists are like, dude, jump right now. Well, I don't have a chute. You don't need one. Jesus has called you to this. Fly! Right? That's when you the antagonist go, hey, no, seriously, no. No, it's not going to work. Not a good idea. Right? Not a good idea. Right? Starting to see that Jesus and the devil thing on the hillside. Right? But we need antagonists to be able to help us galvanize what we believe. Antagonists are important. They come into our lives and they say, no, 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 you can't, you can't, you can't. So it forces you to galvanize what you know to be true. It forces you to galvanize what you're supposed to do. So on your council, you need to have your cheerleaders, right? Your people that you can't do no wrong in front of. They're going to be behind you no matter what, because you need that reinforcement. When things aren't going well, you need no, you're still the guy. But you also need the antagonists. Now, the last group of people in dealing with Proverbs is the saboteurs, right? That just sounds bad. How do you guys feel like piloting when you hear saboteur? I don't know what it is about saboteurs. Okay, so you got to identify who the saboteurs are in your life, okay? Now, saboteurs, they appear to be your friend. Oh, they look every part of the what? The protagonist. These are the people like, I love you to death, Pastor. You're doing a great job. No, I'm serious. I'm serious. And they always present themselves as the solution. Anything I can do to help. I'm here for you. I got your back. You can believe in me. But then they work behind the scenes in your life to undermine everything you do. No, you're totally, you know what? I believe in you. You're awesome. It's great. Good to see you. Seriously, I'm a little concerned right now because the sermon series really doesn't have a lot of Bible in it. What do you think? I mean, I just feel a check in my spirit. Right? Hey, Pastor, good to see you again. Seriously, are you not feeling that check in your spirit? It's weird. It feels very devilish. Right? These are the saboteurs. Oh man, the people who come into your life, who look at your mission and go, I'm with you 100%. I'm really not sure they know what they're doing. If they would listen to me more, if they would take more of my guidance, more of my counsel, they would do better. But let's just see how badly they feel. Oh, good to see you again. It's great. Come on in. Oh man, I'm excited. I'm excited to be on this team. Until I take over this team. Once I take over this team. Right? These are the saboteurs. And these are the people in your life that are the most dangerous to your mission. These are the people that a lot of times, if you fail to recognize who these people are in your personal life, you are going to struggle in your entire life. If you fail to recognize who the people are. See, that's the thing that's so interesting about Jesus and Judas. Jesus knew everything Jesus was going to do. He wasn't shocked. He allowed Judas to do what Judas needed to do so that Jesus could be who he needed to be. But in our lives, our mission, our goals, our calling are more often than not torpedoed by this group of people because we fail to recognize them. Or we think, I don't know, they don't seem quite, but it's okay, I need the help. Right? That's the ultimate in what kills you in life. I need the help, so I'll take the saboteurs on. Now this group of people, you would think the best thing to do would be to jettison them from your life as far away as possible, but the reality is this is a group you have to keep closer than anybody. This is a group that you have to keep closer than any group in your life when you're establishing your plans in life. You have to know who your saboteurs are, and you have to keep them as close as possible. You have to listen to them. You have to listen to what they're saying. You have to be prepared. Because here's the thing about saboteurs, right? They're clumpers. You know what saboteurs tend to do when you don't listen to them? They find another one. So they go and clump with this saboteur over here. And they stand there. And now what are they doing?
Plotting.
They're plotting. Because you pushed them away. Because you went, I don't have any need for that in my life, so get out of here. I don't want you. I heard what you said about me behind the scenes to so-and-so, about whatchamacallit. I heard. And so we jettison those people. That's our natural human tendency, is to jettison saboteurs from our life. But the truth is, the minute you jettison somebody who is out to destroy you, they will go find other people that either you have jettisoned or are about to be jettisoned. You need to keep saboteurs in your life very close. You need to listen to them. You have to give them an ear. You have to allow them to speak. You have to let them talk to you. You have to give them time. They're dangerous, and if you ignore them or you push them away, they will make whatever your ministry or mission is in life that much more difficult. But the human response is get rid of what we don't like. The human response is get rid of the people who are seeking to hurt us. Get rid of the people who are destroying my goals. But the truth is, like Jesus did with Judas, he kept him close. Because in the end, he had a purpose for him. He had a need for him. He kept him close. So close, in fact, he let him run the money. You will find in your life, when you are establishing your counsel, that your human tendency will be, I'm going to surround myself with a whole bunch of people who think I'm the awesome sauce. Right? How many of us have ever complained about a leader, I almost said pastor, a leader, right, who has a council full of yes people? How many of us have ever been called a yes person? Me neither. Right? But the reality is, we all know people who are surrounded by yes people. They make bad decisions. They make really, really, really bad decisions. Because humility is no longer a part of their philosophy and their structure. But people who balance that protagonist in their counsel with an antagonist, someone who's going to push back, someone who's going to question, someone who's going to doubt, someone who's going to struggle, is going to galvanize what you believe you're supposed to be doing. You need galvanizers in your life. You need people to prove, people to force you to believe what you say you believe. Christians who don't have a deep well of non-Christian friends terrify me. Because you need those people to help you galvanize what you say you believe. And if all you do is surround yourself with the people who use the same language, the people who use the same vernacular, the people who use the same Christianese, the people who believe the same thing. You know, there are Christians who believe differently than us. I mean, they're wrong, but they believe differently than us. They're wonderful. Because they will help you galvanize what you say you believe. Antagonists don't have to be, they're not bad people in our lives. More often than not, the antagonist in your life is a good person who loves you to death and just wants you to make good choices. An antagonist just doesn't want to see you get hurt the way they got hurt. An antagonist sometimes is a very caring soul. But the reality is, we need them to push us to know what we believe. And saboteurs, keep them close. Because the minute you turn your back on them, the minute you jettison them, it's amazing. They're like magnets, right? You're like, whoa, wait, hold on. There was one yesterday, right? They're like cockroaches. But Jesus loves them, cockroaches, right? It's amazing. It's like, I saw one, there's 1,000, right? The reality is they will clump in your life and they will destroy every goal you have. If you do not keep them close, identifying them early and keeping them close is critical as Christians who are trying to live on mission. Who are critical as Christians who are trying to live with living out the life of Christ example for us. So we're gonna cut off right there because it's already been 40 minutes. So that's step one. We're going to continue talking about plan. Next week we're going to talk about the next most important step in making a good quality life plan. That's patience. So, yeah, saboteurs don't have patience either, by the way. So let's close in prayer, and we will grab some food in the back and hang out for a little bit. Please do not rush out. Eat the food and share time with someone. Father God, we just thank you so much for this morning. God, I pray your blessing over our discernment and our wisdom as we begin to really make good missional living a part of our lives, that we can live on point, on task, and live lives that are pleasing to you, so that in the end none of us have to look you in the eye and smell the rotted biblical knowledge in our mouths and smell the stink of the sort of the over-fattened Christian. So we pray blessing this morning, God, on our lives and on our mission. Blessing this morning, God, as we spend time together and share in fellowship for just a little bit this morning. In your tremendous and wonderful name. Amen.